You don't need fists to defeat someone. All you need is one thing: non-reaction. When you remain silent, your enemy will speak and reveal themselves. When you refuse to compete, you throw them into panic because there's no one left to step on. And when you walk away with calm, every attack becomes meaningless. In this video, you'll discover how to destroy with grace, how to win without fighting, and how to become unshakable, even when the world is raging. Don't look away, because this is the lesson no one ever taught you, but one you absolutely need to know. Part 1. Destruction without attack. The power of non-reaction. In a crowded corner of Brooklyn, New York, Marcus, a quiet man, was once a respected team leader at a growing tech company. He wasn't flashy or cunning, just someone who got things done. But then a new manager arrived, one who believed control came from domination and division. This manager started manipulating, cutting Marcus's authority, ignoring his input in meetings, even openly blaming him when projects fell behind. Everything was done subtly. If Marcus reacted, he'd look like an employee who couldn't respect authority. If he got angry, he'd be labeled unprofessional. But Marcus didn't react. He didn't fire off angry emails. He didn't gossip behind backs. He didn't quit abruptly and vent on LinkedIn. He chose to observe. He still arrived on time, completed his work, supported his teammates. But instead of seeking validation from his boss, he began building relationships beyond the team, from product to the executive board. He worked steadily, calmly, as if nothing had happened. 3 months later, the cracks began to show. His manager started contradicting himself. Another employee was mistreated, and this time, that person compiled old emails and sent them to HR. Gradually, the team began to see a power built on fear, not vision. Eventually, Marcus was invited to interview for the new team lead position after his former boss was removed for creating a toxic work environment. Marcus had never reacted during the entire conflict, and that's exactly why he won. Reflection. Sometimes, the strongest way to destroy a toxic system isn't to confront it head-on, but to let it unravel itself. When you stay silent, you deny your enemy a foothold. When you don't react, you force them to reveal their true nature. And in a world where everyone fights for a microphone, the one who chooses silence becomes the one everyone listens to. Part 2. Non-reaction. The art of dominating from the shadows. In Austin, Texas, amid the high tensions of a local election, candidate Diana Holmes, a Latina attorney, faced relentless attacks from her opponents. Not through arguments, but through smear campaigns. They mocked her background, distorted old quotes, doctored photos, and claimed she was too progressive to represent the conservative white community. Every election has dirty tricks. But this time, it was a full-on strategy designed to provoke Diana into lashing out. But she didn't fall for it. Instead of diving into the mudslinging, Diana quietly posted snapshots of real life, her picking up trash with volunteers by the Colorado River, listening to a veteran's story, visiting schools and awarding scholarships to underprivileged students. No shade, no name-calling, no mention of her rivals. Her opponents grew impatient. They escalated, spreading false claims that she had violated laws as a law student. But the public began to see something. Only one side was actually doing the work, and one side was screaming for attention. Diana's silence wasn't weakness. It was strategy. She didn't need to yell, "I'm not the bad guy." She let her opponents yell themselves into exposure, and people started listening, not to them, but to the composed quiet of her presence. The election ended with Diana's victory. But what people remembered wasn't the vote count. It was the steady dignity of a woman who refused to be dragged into the mud. Reflection. In the art of emotional warfare, the loser isn't the one who stays silent. It's the one who loses control. When you react, you let someone else dictate the battlefield. But when you don't, you force them to step out of the role of controller. Non-reaction doesn't mean weakness. It's how you say, "I refuse to play your petty game," and make them expose themselves without a word from you. Part 3. Walking away is how you raise your value. In Los Angeles, where spotlight and competition walk hand in hand, Ethan, a fitness trainer, was once the quiet force behind many celebrities' sculpted bodies. He wasn't known for flashy marketing or clout chasing, just for being steady, skilled, and respectful. One day, a famous pop singer, let's call her Serena, hired Ethan as her personal trainer. Things went well at first, but soon she began making unreasonable demands. Switching schedules on a whim, filming private sessions for her socials without permission, and publicly calling him too boring for not bringing drama. One morning, in front of several people, she said bluntly, "I need someone more dynamic." "You're bland." A comment that could humiliate anyone. Ethan looked at her and replied, "I understand." "Then we stop here." He packed his gear, thanked the receptionist, and walked out. No sarcastic tweet, no passive-aggressive post, no drama. That seemed like the end. But weeks later, Serena began lamenting on her podcast how hard it is to find someone as professional and consistent as Ethan. She posted throwback photos with captions like, "Miss this discipline." Meanwhile, Ethan never mentioned her again. He quietly opened a small gym in West Hollywood, not for celebrities, but for people who valued commitment over clout. Reflection. You don't have to make someone fail to win. Sometimes, it's enough that they lose you. Real value isn't in applause. It's in the silence that follows when your absence speaks louder than their noise. Walking away isn't defeat. It's saying, "I don't belong where I'm not valued." And when you leave without drama, you force others to face a question they can't ignore. What exactly did they lose? In a world that demands explanation, the one who walks away quietly is remembered the longest. Part 4. When they imitate you, it's a sign you're leading. At the Innovation Center of Silicon Valley, Rachel, a soft-spoken Asian software engineer, quietly worked in a team full of people who were given more stage time than her. She wasn't someone who liked to speak up in big meetings, nor was she skilled in office politics. But in the code room, every back-end line had to pass through her hands for review. Rachel quietly developed an internal AI system that doubled the efficiency of bug analysis. At first, no one noticed, but soon its effectiveness caught the attention of the operations team and then spread to other departments. A performance report eventually reached the CTO. Rachel didn't send it herself. Her system, through its clear results, spoke for her. Then something unexpected happened. A colleague, Steve, who used to mock her, saying she was just good at coding but didn't understand strategy, started developing a similar tool. In a team meeting, Steve presented some of the same principles Rachel had used in her system, but under a different name. He tried to turn it into a commercial product. Rachel remained silent. She didn't speak out, didn't complain about her idea being stolen. Instead, she kept improving her system in a direction focused on internal security, an area Steve lacked the expertise to touch. When the board began searching for a leader for their strategic AI project, the CTO himself recommended Rachel. There was no need for interviews. Her work left a trail clear enough. Steve was removed from the project. Rachel was invited to lead it. For the first time, with full control over the company's tech strategy, without having to flatter anyone. Reflection. When others imitate you, don't be quick to get angry. They're not doing it because they underestimate you. They do it because they see value in you and don't know how to create it themselves. Imitation, whether subtle or blatant, is a backhanded compliment, but instead of reacting, just keep moving forward, because the farther you go, the harder it becomes for anyone to catch up, even if they're holding a poor replica of your original. In a world where everyone wants to be the original, be the one no copy can overshadow. Part 5. Don't let insults drag you down. Win through composure. In Detroit, Michigan, where public schools struggle under budget cuts and societal pressure, Mr. Thomas, a high school history teacher, was a model of discipline and integrity. He wasn't the overly friendly kind of teacher, but he set high expectations and treated every student fairly. One day, a group of parents, led by a mother whose child received a low grade, filed a complaint. They accused him of being difficult, uninspiring, and even hinted at favoritism. The letter spread throughout the PTA and eventually onto social media. Some fellow teachers began to distance themselves, fearing the fallout. Thomas said nothing. No rebuttals. No open letters. No appeals on Facebook. He continued arriving on time, teaching as usual, helping struggling students, tutoring after school. Just a little quieter. Some students sensed something was off. One quietly told him after class, "Sir, they're wrong about you." A month later, an essay written by one of his students won a state-level award. A group of students who had failed the previous year, tutored by him over the summer, got accepted into college. Other parents, the silent ones, started writing letters of appreciation. They shared how he didn't just teach history, he taught their kids respect, responsibility, and self-worth. When the administration reopened the case, the accusers found themselves isolated. The accusations dissolved into silence because no one believed them anymore. Reflection. When you're attacked, your first instinct is to defend yourself. But reacting too quickly often turns you into exactly what your attacker wants: anxious, insecure, rattled. Instead, let your actions speak. Let your results testify. And let your calmness become the strongest indictment, because it shows you're not controlled by the storm around you. The true winner isn't the one who shouts, "I'm right." It's the one who makes the world realize it, without saying a single word. Part 6. Turning hardship into strength, rising through silence. In rainy Seattle, where the cold and loneliness can sink deep into your bones, Linda, a woman in her mid-30s, once had what seemed like a complete life: a small home, 2 lovely kids, and a husband working as a software engineer. They weren't rich, but they had enough, until the day he left. No clear reason. No cheating. No major fights. Just a quiet statement in the kitchen. "I feel like I need to live for myself now." Linda didn't scream, didn't beg. She silently tidied the kitchen, laid a blanket on the couch in case he wanted to stay that night, then walked back to the room to hold her kids. The breakup wasn't broadcast online. No status updates. No dramatic posts. Linda kept taking the kids to school, worked part-time, and studied accounting in the evenings. Most people didn't know she was going through a divorce. Some even admired her for keeping the family so steady despite everything. A year later, Linda graduated from her accounting program and opened a small financial consulting service for single mothers in her community. She didn't become famous. She didn't do a TED Talk. But more and more women came to her, not just for tax advice, but for inspiration from someone who didn't need to scream to survive her pain. Her ex-husband, who once thought she'd fall apart without him, could now only watch quietly as their kids excitedly shared stories about their mom. Linda never spoke badly of him, never stopped the kids from seeing him. But she never looked back either. She had moved forward on the quiet strength of her own steps. Reflection. Some victories don't come from confrontation. They come from simply refusing to be crushed by the pain. Some strength doesn't show through muscle, but through calmness in the face of injustice. Silence, when paired with action, becomes the loudest declaration. I'm still here. I didn't collapse, and I'm becoming the best version of myself, even if no one cheers me on. Not everyone deserves to hear your story, because sometimes it's the silence that makes them look up to you with a respect words could never command. Conclusion. Power needs no noise. You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't need to fight to prove you're not wrong. And you don't have to go to war to win. Silence, when paired with conviction, dignity, and steady action, can dismantle any attack. It leaves your enemies lost in their own rage and lets you walk forward, unstained. In a world addicted to noise and overreaction, the one who stays calm holds the power. Thank you for watching till the end. See you in the next video.